July 23rd, 2020. It took a while, but we're here. It's happening. The world isn't imploded yet, my friends, and we're glad to have you back with us. It is the, Josh, say it with me, MLB Strategy Show. I'll say it myself. Next time we'll get that. And
I thought you were leading me into something else.
No. I'll get you in the SuperDraft. Dave Loughran with me, Josh Engleman. Only a 2-game slate to get things started. And you know what? You got to be excited no matter what. Be pumped up because we got a whole lot more coming down the pike. Tomorrow, I consider tomorrow to be real opening day, right? Today's just a tease. And then we've got basketball coming back on the 30th. So everything's going to slap us across the face real quickly. And it's time to be prepared. Before we get started, I will say, if you have some time today, check out the 3-show series that we did Monday through Wednesday. Josh joined me, Jake Hari, Adam Scher, and specifically, most importantly, Alex Baker, Awesemo himself. We broke down everything, Fantasy Cruncher, lineup builder, how this restart is going to affect players, Vegas totals, you name it, all of that. They're about an hour each, but all of them really helpful, especially yesterday where we did a 4-man show. But Josh, the time has come. 2 games. The problem here is, one of them might get rained out.
Yeah, what a great start. Nats Yankees is looking a little dicey. I do think it's something to pay attention to. You don't have to worry about fans for cancellations anymore. And I think that's kind of important. It's not like you have to worry about 8,000 people sitting in there getting soaked for 2 hours. You could wait that out longer than normal because you don't have anybody else's sort of lives in your hands. I don't know if that's going to matter or not, but I hadn't thought about it until literally right now.
That's a good point, but I don't know if they care about. Actually, let me tell you this one thing very bluntly. We're talking about the Washington Nationals.
Yeah,
they don't give a flying. To put this nicely, they don't care about that. They care if they have a good pitcher on the mound and they want to use them or not. I know you remember they did this several times last year and the year before. Well, last year there was some rule put in place. 2 years ago, we had instances where they had somebody on the mound that they just didn't. I think it was Joe Ross. They were like, we can get Strasburg tomorrow. Maybe we'll call this a night, and they did. Look, I know there's conspiracies surrounding that, but what we know is there were a couple games where rain never actually hit Nationals Park. So I think the idea here probably is to protect the players more than anything, but it is an interesting little wrinkle. Now, do you think we are legitimately threatened by the weather here? Because I looked at the radar, I looked at the hourly forecast. I can't say I feel great about this Nats and Yankees game.
So I lean towards checking at Awesemo Weather on Twitter, which already has a little bit of an update for tonight. Alex says he would not be surprised to see this game be postponed. I don't know what their plans are if you have to postpone a game for weather. Like, I assume you wait as long as possible. 60 games is different than 162. You don't have natural places to jam these games back in, particularly a series of Nats Yankees. I mean, granted, they are going to play, but it's not as if this is Nats Mets and they're like, you're going to 100% have 15 more opportunities to finish this doubleheader if you need to in a normal season. We've got 60 games in 66 days?
Yeah, 60 something days. Yeah.
I think they have to wait out weather way more than they normally would now.
I think you're right. And you might end up seeing this game. You might end up seeing first pitch at like 10. Now, you and I don't actually know because none of us do, but there's no doubt about it. If I did,
we'd be millionaires.
Oh yeah, we'd be in good shape. There's no question though that they have to try. They're going to have to use some unorthodox techniques to get all of these games in. And you know what? It's the middle of the summer. We're going to get weather. It happens every year. Like, you're going to get storms, and they might just have to power through this. I'm looking at it now. They're all scattered thunderstorms, right? At least that's what it's saying, from 6 up until after midnight. So if that's the case, well, there's a good chance they get a window in. Who knows? Maybe they play a few innings. And the thing is, I think probably the last thing they want to do in an abbreviated only 60 game season, the last thing you want to do, and I'm just thought about this now, Josh, but it's probably an important point. The last thing that these teams want to do with Garrett Cole and Max Scherzer on the mound is try and hit a window where they might only get 4 innings in, and then they have to sit both of these starters for another 5 days after only throwing 55, 60 pitches.
Yeah, they're certainly not going to want to jerk those two guys around. I mean, we're talking about, you can make a case the 2 best pitchers in baseball if you really want to. I wouldn't argue all that hard. You don't want those guys to go out there and throw 3 innings after not having played for 8 months and then decide if you want them to go back out again for the 4th, which I assume they wouldn't, but who the hell knows? How long the delay would dictate that quite a bit. I think watching weather is going to be a different experience now than it ever was before, probably for the better. I think we lose less games to weather than we normally would. I think it's just going to be like, oh, this game is just going to be underwater for 8 hours. Those will be the easy ones. But I think we're going to see games start at really ridiculous times moving forward.
If you're new to the show, welcome. Josh and I have been doing the strategy show, baseball, basketball, for a couple of years now, and it's a fun time. We're going to do our best not to get off the rails. Sometimes some people enjoy that, some people don't. But on opening day, we'll try and stay laser focused here. And to everybody in chat, Anthony, Marcus, Steven, these guys always in there hanging out. Our boy Keegster, what's going on, everybody? So wanted to wait till we got populated a little bit here. I think it's time to rock. Josh, you want to get into these games?
More than a little bit.
All right. Well, we've got the Yankees and the Washington Nationals. This is something you'll hear us say a lot. If there's potential weather, even if it looks really bad, if the game hasn't been postponed, we're going to talk about it. It's that simple. We're not going to, especially on a 2-game slate, but I'm saying looking forward thinking here, we're always going to hit on every game, no matter what, even if it seems to be a dire situation out there. But you've got Max Scherzer at home, only $8,600 on DraftKings, which was, I think, somewhat surprising. It's probably a way DraftKings saying, listen, you got to be able to make lineups somehow without stacking the San Francisco Giants. And this isn't, they've done this before. They've done this before. Garrett Cole's 11-4 on FanDuel. 10-7 is Max Scherzer bouncing around here. Garrett Cole, $10,000 on DraftKings. So pricing can be steeper on FanDuel. Pitcher pricing is a lot steeper here. And as a matter of fact, Josh, even Clayton Kershaw is above $10,000 on FanDuel. So we'll start with the Yankees. We'll start with the Washington Nationals. Road team, Yankees, minus 137 favorites last I looked. Low totals here, though. They opened at 4-1. They're down to 4 runs. The interesting thing, and I'll throw it over to you about this Yankee squad, is do you remember how many injuries they had throughout the first few months of last year?
Yeah, all of them. Basically, every name that I see right now was some other jabroni for a full month. And
they were somehow still like a top 5 team. It made no sense. They're healthy, man. DJ LeMahieu was sick. He's back. This team is healthy and rearing to go here on opening night. They have, based on Steamer's projections, they have, this is crazy, 5 straight hitters in their projected lineup with an ISO north of 200. Almost 6. Luke Voigt is at 197. And some of these, like Stanton's is 323. This is a terrifying lineup. Like, obviously Max Scherzer is not scared, but if this was lesser pitchers are going to run into some real trouble with the long ball against the Yankees. Whew. Is Max Scherzer?
I love seeing it.
Actually, I don't. Let's start with Cole, like I said, up in the Yankees. Then we can get into to Scherzer. But yeah, wanted to point out there that this Yankees team that was really in trouble last season somehow came out of it alive. But they are healthy. And as Josh just noted, it is scary looking at, I don't care who you are, going up against this lineup is going to be troublesome. But as far as Garrett Cole goes, we're talking about a guy that, and this is insane because he did allow 29 home runs last year, but it didn't matter because most were solo shots, and he struck lefties out. You ready for this? He struck lefties out at a 43.7% clip. Opposite-handed hitters, he struck out close to 50% of the time. It doesn't get crazier than that.
No, he just mows everyone down. Like it's really as easy as it is to say. There's a 50-50 shot, basically, if you're a lefty, that you're going down on strikes. I mean, it's less than that, but it's still close enough that it seems like it's a coin flip. He was absolutely lethal against lefties last year. Eaton, Soto, Eric Thames looking like the lefties that'll be in the lineup for the Nats. Going to be a long day for those three guys. And it's not like it's easy sailing for all the righties either. Those guys still went down at 36%. There's no real weakness, right, for Garrett Cole? I mean, there's nothing you could look at and be like, this is how they're going to get him.
Right. He gave up 17 home runs to lefties last year. There is that, right? You and I discussed this at length a couple of weeks ago on the Daily Sports Show, but the weather is also going to affect these teams in that nobody gets cold weather games anymore. You know, you're a Yankees starter, you're Max Scherzer for the Washington Nationals. The first, easily April, and then a lot of May, you're not playing in really hot temperatures. Now you're starting the season off in late July. So I don't care
110
where in the country. This is going to make it a little bit more interesting from a long ball perspective. But overall, I agree with you. There is no real hole in Garrett Cole's game outside of he does give up some home runs. But I wanted to pull this up here, Josh, because if I recall correctly, him and Verlander did not do a great job of limiting home runs last year, but they did a very good job of limiting home runs with runners on base. Yeah. And if you're able to do that, I'm not particularly worried about it. But I will. How about this? This is something I haven't heard discussed a whole lot, and that's probably because, well, both of us just started digging into baseball rather recently. Does having Gary Sanchez projected behind the mound, not the mound. Sorry, it's
the plate is the place that he'll be. Yeah.
Did I say in the squat?
No.
How does that? You never heard that? You never heard in the squat?
I mean, I've heard that phrase. That should not be what
I'm not talking about in a back alley, you know. And
if you had 8 minutes into the show as when we go off the rails, you can pick up your prize.
But Gary Sanchez, you know, there's a lot of metrics out there that'll say, and I think legitimately that defensive catchers are more valuable to team wins than offensive catchers. Yep. Gary Sanchez is a spectacular offensive catcher, but behind the plate, there are some issues there, Josh. And one of the biggest things is when you take a look at some very important stats, called strikes above average, run framing. He was towards the very bottom of the league in called strikes above average and run framing last year, meaning balls that probably shouldn't have been strikes weren't, and balls that should have been strikes were balls. Other catchers are significantly better at framing pitches, and that's not Gary Sanchez. I'm just nitpicking here because you said there aren't any negatives, but I think if there was one, going to Gary Sanchez as a catcher, he is one of the lesser he's one of the lesser productive actual defensive catchers in the league.
Yeah, it's definitely something to pay attention to. I worry about it a little bit less for guys like Cole or Scherzer, given the amount of swinging strikes that they get. Yeah. They're not getting by on like guile and placement to a degree. I mean, they clearly are. They also have incredible command, but that's why they become the upper echelon. They check off every box. But for guys like Cole, you have so many people on their heels once they get into that batter's box that I'm not as worried about the pitch framer as I would be for a guy that's really trying to paint corners. He's really just trying to break you down and make you swing straight through a ball.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm sure Cole would want a better defensive catcher as well, but I think he'll be plenty happy with the offense that Gary Sanchez brings. It won't matter all that much when the Yankees score 9 runs.
Not at all. And he's got a 36% called plus swinging strike rate, which is a really, really lofty number. A swinging strike rate from, obviously, Josh, I'm taking last year's numbers, but 16.8% swinging strike rate for Garrett Cole. You bring up some good points there. Will there be some times where you wish it wasn't Gary Sanchez in the squat? Surely. But I don't think it's enough to say, all right, I'm worried about this. And how could you be? Garrett Cole on this slate, no matter who he's facing, makes for a spectacular play. Now, what about this Washington team as a whole going up against him? Not offense yet, but like, is there anything about this Washington lineup that concerns you if you're running Garrett Cole out there? Or do you like this matchup specifically in one or a few spots?
I think it's hard to not like this matchup for Garrett Cole. Juan Soto stands out as like the boom bust option on the opposite side. You know, a guy that might go 1 for 4 with a home run and 3 Ks type job there. So Soto would be the kind of guy that I would be okay with bringing back along the other side just because he has so much power. It's a good Nats team. Like, it's an above average Nats lineup, that's for sure. There's just not anything really scary that I'm worried about outside of Soto.
Yeah, I'm just looking at strikeout rates here against righties last season. There's nothing outrageous. Obviously, Eric Thames is the one, right? Is the 30% strikeout guy against righties. Juan Soto, 25% strikeout rate against righties. No, I'm sorry, that's Yan Gomes. Juan Soto was at 20%. Victor Robles was at 23. So you've got a bunch of guys right around that league average.
Yeah.
If this was a different slate, we might be digging into this a little bit more because you might have some other pitchers in better spots, but I don't think that's necessary. So let's talk about Max Scherzer. And then we can get into, Josh, looking at a little bit at roster construction here, because we can talk about, oh yeah, play this guy and play this guy, but how easy is it to actually fit them into a lineup together? So stick around till the end and we'll definitely we'll come full circle and put all of this together. What about Max Scherzer? 86 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's 10-7.
Yeah, he is. If you're not playing Max Scherzer in a cash game on DraftKings, you need to switch to a different sport.
Yeah. And by the way, on SuperDraft, he's 1.1 multiplier. Garrett Cole is just 1x. So that to me is not enough, especially against this Yankees team.
What site was that?
SuperDraft.
There it is. I missed it. Yeah, you have to play Max Scherzer in a cash game on DraftKings. That is the number one thing to do as soon as you start. He is going to have, 80% ownership in GPPs. He will be 99% owned in cash games. You just don't have a choice. He has to be your cash option.
You have it projected right now as far as ownership goes at 76% on DraftKings.
Yeah, so safe bet he'll be in a cash lineup for you. Don't do anything too weird there. Look, he's fantastic, and he's clearly one of the best pitchers in the league, but this is about as bad as it gets for him. There is power everywhere. It would really surprise me if he didn't give up a home run in this spot. Nats ballpark plays a little bit better to right-handed power than it does to left-handed power, and the Yankees just have righty power on top of righty power on top of righty power. It's everywhere. It's unavoidable. The thing that I'll pay most attention to, his command is going to be very important here. Putting additional runners on base against the Yankees is a death sentence. You just can't give up any type of mistake to them because they are so much more likely to hit a home run than probably any other team in the league. If you put a guy on from a walk, if you're having like a bad BABIP day, that's the sort of day that can get really troublesome for any starting pitcher against the Yankees because they have power from 1 to 9. I think that's a little bit of the reason why you see Scherzer's price come down on DK. Just an absolute horrible matchup. It also creates this really weird scenario where Scherzer is going to be in so many lineups. I wonder how many people are going to be playing Yankees coming back on the opposite side.
Yeah, he allowed only 0.94 home runs per 9 last year, right? So that wasn't a huge issue. A stat that Alex Baker likes. He averaged 25.7 batters faced per game, which is the most of any pitcher on this slate. But it's tough. And look, we got to be fair to Max. Dude has a 35% K rate. He's got some insane numbers. And we all know this. We look at Garrett Cole's strikeout rate versus lefties. Max Scherzer every single year against right-handed hitters is outright dominant. And he's going to face a decent amount of them. So I don't want to gloss over this too much. The problem is the ownership, right? Like he has 20% higher projected ownership than Garrett Cole because of that price. People want to get batters into their lineup. But you've got the projected lineup being LeMahieu, Judge, Gleyber Torres, Giancarlo Stanton to kick it off. So that's 4 straight righties. Then Aaron Hicks. Sanchez is 5 of 6. And then Luke Voigt. So that's 6 of 7 righties, or 6 or 7 of the top in the lineup are righties, then Brett Gardner, then Gio Urshela. So you have 7 righties projected in this lineup. That to me is what gives me pause in a good way when it comes to Max Scherzer, right? There's a lot of concerns here, but he had a 0.8 whip against righties last season, a 2.2 xFIP, 2.22 xFIP, and a 39% K rate. He walked them, you ready for this? At 2%.
No freebies. No freebies.
It's nuts. 0.65 home runs per 9 with a 2.23 weighted on base average and a 1.14 ISO. I know those are a lot of numbers, but I just kind of want to drive that home. He is dominant against righties. So if there's a silver lining, Scherzer's facing a lot of really good hitters, but 7 of them are probably going to be right-handed.
Yeah, it's sort of that irresistible force meets immovable object thing. Scherzer absolutely decimates righties, and this is probably the best crop of righty bats in the league. Which one of those wins out? You usually start to lean a little bit towards the hitters in months like July. Slightly better home run, like I mentioned before, slightly better home run park for righties. That helps as well. Who knows how long Scherzer goes in this game? Is this going to be like a normal? Is the league going to be normal? Is Scherzer going to throw as long as he wants? Is he going to go 115 pitches if he can? I have no idea how they're going to manage their rosters moving forward. You could tell me that Max Scherzer is going to throw 6 innings and that's just it, no matter what his pitch count is. And that would not surprise me at all. I don't know how you manage for a season that is completely different than any other MLB season we've had before. It wouldn't shock, especially for this being the first game, it wouldn't shock me if they treated Max Scherzer with kid gloves, because the ultimate goal is make it to the playoffs at this point, even more so than before. If I'm looking to pick a pitcher in this game, I don't know how you do it because of that price discount. Because it's not like Garrett Cole is unowned. He's still 54% owned. I guess I lean a little bit, honestly, towards Scherzer just to take that extra salary and give myself more options for lineup construction throughout the rest of it. Just having that extra $1,400 gives you a wealth more of possibilities for rounding out the rest of your hitters. I just want to, you're not going to hear me say this a lot this season. I just want to watch this.
I know. That's so true. I'm with you 100%. This is a matchup. The MLB did mostly everything wrong leading up to the start of the season. Scheduling Scherzer versus Garrett Cole, I'll tip the hat to that one. I have no problem with that. I know what your answer is going to be. We'll move on to hitters and then we'll get on to this second game in a minute. I know what your answer is going to be, but I'm going to ask you anyway because this is a question that we oftentimes get. Do you have any concerns that Max Scherzer in the 11 1/3 innings he threw in this spring training, if you want to call it that, abbreviated spring training, gave up 11 runs, 10 earned, and really struggled to keep runners off base? He did strike out 16 batters, though.
I didn't know that he threw any innings in extended spring training or whatever we want to call this. I don't even know where to go to get those stats. So no, that is not something that I will be looking at. You were correct. Not relevant for me.
Yep. Had to ask.
Sure.
MLB.com, 2020, 11 and a third innings. Yeah. So not great, but you know what? That's why they go out there to kind of shake them cobwebs off. Not something I'd be concerned about either. So let's wrap this game up, Josh, with just a little bit more analysis on hitters. Then we can get to San Francisco and LA, which may not be as fun to watch, but it's critical that we get that right from a DFS perspective. On either side, are we looking at batters that stand out to us? Like I said, Scherzer really good against righties. Garrett Cole, 17 homers to lefties last year, but you probably, if you're rostering lefties against him, they're probably going to strike out. You were just hoping that they make good contact once and give you those 14 points.
I'm definitely leaning more towards Yankee bats than Nats bats, but that shouldn't be terribly surprising. Stanton on FanDuel for 3,500 is probably my favorite play of the slate. Not like I hate him on DK at 4,600 either. If I need to take anybody from the Nats that just stands out individually, Trey Turner on FanDuel. He's a guy that I get a ton, but 3,600 for a shortstop that leads off. I just like the opportunities from a plate appearance perspective. Juan Soto would be the other guy that I like most from Washington. The Nats side is just tough. Especially on DraftKings, I don't really love their pricing all that much. It's a lot easier for me to get to individual Yankees bats. I think they're priced a little bit more realistically than they are on the Washington side. You tell me though, what do you think? What stands out to you?
No, I generally speaking, I'm with you here. I would say though that Juan Soto is just a spectacular baseball player. And if I had to put money on one player to homer here, if you told me one player was going to homer against Garrett Cole today and told me, I can take anybody, I think you'd agree. Juan Soto is the way you want to go here. So
no doubt.
He's expensive. There's no question about that. What's his ownership at right now?
24 on DK, 26 on FanDuel.
Okay, 24. I guess that's not crazy given the 2-game slate. But
no, I mean, look, he's at 24. Yan Gomes is at 22 on DK. And then for the Yankees, LeMahieu 28, Judge 26, Stanton 24, Hicks 21, Sanchez 27, Voit 24. So he's just in this bunch of mid-20s guys that exist. He's not, just for context purposes.
We'll talk about a 400-200 club, 400 WOBA, 200 ISO. He's in the 400-300 club against righties. 414 weighted on base average, 303 ISO, and a 155 WRC plus. So these are spectacular numbers. 28 long balls for Juan Soto in 438 plate appearances against righties last year. If I'm going anywhere on the Washington side, preferably I want to go with Juan Soto. And on the Yankees, like, how much viability do you see stacks on either side of this game, given that we only have 2 other teams to talk about after this?
I mean, I think that the Yankees are significantly more viable than the Nats, especially if you are of the opinion that Scherzer might not throw as much. If you can get a couple extra innings against a bullpen, that should be helpful. That's going to be better than facing Max Scherzer, that's for sure. You just have more opportunities to pick up multi-run homers from the Yankees side. So I would be certainly more likely to stack the Yanks. And I think that they're easier to stack. They don't have like the full pay down options like the bottom of the Nats lineup, but everybody is in the 4s. Everybody is in between 4,100 and 4,600 on DraftKings. You have LeMahieu and Gleyber Torres with dual eligibility, which always helps. There's nothing really stopping you from getting to 4 or 5 man stacks on the Yankees, other than just the fact that you're facing Scherzer in that particular case. But I think they're really easy to stack up. That would be my goal. I think we would all probably agree that the Dodgers look the best because they get to face Johnny Cueto and not another ace.
Yeah.
But I see no reason why the Yankees wouldn't be probably the highest upside stack of the day for me.
2 things. One, Josh's spreadsheet will be coming back. What do we say, next week?
Yeah. Once basketball starts.
Josh just wanted to know that you all missed it, and he wanted to see it in chat. He said, I need to know that these guys want my spreadsheet back. And I think the answer is yes. James
that's a true statement, by the way, verbatim from my mouth before we started.
Just an egotistical son of a bitch over here. And James Morrison, he might be the same one or it might be the second person, which would be strange. Asked if I was wearing makeup. Now, that's an odd question. Number one, do I seem like the kind of person that would put makeup on? Okay. Really think this process through. All right. Maybe it looks like
it's the people that are loudest against it that are into it the most.
Right. I can assure you that I only wear makeup off camera. So no makeup. I don't know what it is, man. Maybe I'm just dying and I'm jaundicing under my eyes, but I'll be here for another however long it takes to close out this show. By the way, hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. I mentioned it at the top, but welcome to everyone. If you're new, welcome to you. We're happy to have anybody new with Awesemo. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell as well. And Josh, we got one more game to go, but I think it's only right that I talk about one thing, and that is
SuperDraft.
SuperDraft.io, or check it out in the App Store. There are no salaries involved, just multipliers. Like I said earlier, Garrett Cole, 1x multiplier. Whatever he scores is exactly what he gets. But say you want to play Kershaw, 1.45 the fantasy points is what you get. So he scores 20, you get 1.45 times 20. I don't know that off the top of my head, but we'll figure that out sometime later. They've got the
29.
Thank you, Josh. We got the $15,000 moonshot, $3,000 to first place. Like I said, I hate when, I'm going to use this again because I'm true to myself. I hate when people try and reinvent the wheel with DFS. Oftentimes it fails. Most of the time, if not all the time, it fails. This is a unique way of doing things differently without getting rid of what we actually love about daily fantasy sports. So if you haven't checked it out, it's in the App Store, it's SuperDraft or SuperDraft.io. And, you can actually get $10 free put into your account just by using the sign-up code AWESEMO10, AWESEMO 10. That's 10, all one word. It's a free $10 on your first deposit of $10 or more, or you'll get $20 free on your first deposit of $100 or more. Just use Awesemo10. Hit it up in the apps. Download it in the App Store or go over to SuperDraft.io. One more time, Josh.
SuperDraft.
Oh, it's lovely. All right, one more game to go here. Only 2 games, but we're getting back in the groove here. Dodgers, San Francisco, Giants. Dude, this game, monster favorites are the Dodgers. They just signed Mookie Betts to a $365 million extension. They are minus 284 on the money line. They've got a run total of 5.2. You look at this Giants team, run total of 3 plus 253. It's looking like it could be an ugly one for the Giants, but let's kick it off with Clayton Kershaw and see how you think he fares tonight.
So that should be interesting, right? He is not the same thing as Max Scherzer and Garrett Cole.
No,
people probably think it.
Kershaw.
Yeah, it's just he's not that guy any longer. That doesn't mean that he is bad because he's still really, really good. He's just not an ace any longer. Seeing him at 7,700 on DK and upper 60s or mid 60s of ownership right now, just going to flag you guys down. Cash game pairing. Clayton Kershaw, Max Scherzer appears to be the clear cash pairing on DraftKings for today. So let's just put that information out there right now.
Not Garrett Cole. Yeah.
No. I mean, in theory, you might be able to get there because having Scherzer and Kershaw leaves you so much salary that you can't do anything else. But I doubt that's going to matter. Kershaw, Scherzer is the pairing for me there. Look, I like him. I don't like him all that much on FanDuel. I greatly prefer the 2 starters from the other game. Kershaw's 10-3 there. That just seems like a little bit too much to ask. He's in a great spot. The Giants are bad. Based on the lineup that they are projecting right now and based on Steamer projections, I get a weighted, or I get like an average weighted runs created plus for the Giants of 92. That should not be what your opening day lineup can be. 100 is average, and below that is worse. 92 is pretty rough, given that today should be the day that you're running out arguably the best you've got. This not going to be a very good opportunity for the Giants. Only Wilmer Flores of the guys in his projected lineup projects to be a better than average hitter this year. The Giants stink. Kershaw should run right through them.
When you looked at this projected lineup, were there any players that you had yet to have heard of?
Kinda, yeah. I did. Mauricio Dubon didn't ring a bell to me at all. Whether or not he was up, that would be the one that stood out most. I didn't know Darren Ruff was in the majors. I don't know. The Giants lineup looks a lot like a KBO lineup as far as I'm concerned. A lot of these guys might be playing in Korea in 2022.
Yeah, I was going to say soon to be KBO lineup. Austin Slater, Mike Yastrzemski, Wilmer Flores, Hunter Pence still going strong. Darren Ruff, Donovan Solano, Mauricio Dubon, Brandon Crawford, and Tyler Heineman.
This is what I would expect to see if like the Blue Jays couldn't make it into the United States and they had to play their AAA team.
Yeah. Wow. Look, I get that Kershaw isn't the same that he used to be, but it is very uncommon to get a starting day lineup this bad. Usually you're looking through the aces and you're like, all right, that's kind of tough. That's kind of tough. I don't like that. I mean, my God, Josh, maybe he goes out there and he gets lit up. They're going to run a bunch of righties out there. As far as I can see, you'll probably have two lefties in the lineup. And by the way, we no more pitchers hitting.
No.
So we've got the DH. I'm sure the Giants were thrilled to know that they had to throw somebody else into the lineup. What a horrible thing. They would probably rather throw, pitchers in there to see what they could do. But anyway, it's going to be an ugly sight unless something happens, and I don't know if it will, as far as them catching a spark or something in Dodger Stadium today. Dude, I know you have Scherzer and Cole on this slate, but again, as far as the matchup goes, there is no better matchup or close, not even close, than Clayton Kershaw. Is that enough for us to say, you know what? That's my guy today. I'm going very heavy Kershaw along with much of the field.
On DraftKings, yes. I don't have an issue with it because he's 7,700. I think the ownership is reasonable then. On FanDuel, where he's 10,300 and Scherzer's 10,700 and Cole is 11,400, you're not getting a big enough gap. You're not making up for the matchup is great. Those salaries don't make up for it enough. And it's not like I have any problem with Kershaw. He just doesn't have that same sort of upside that those other two guys have, at least for FanDuel. But on DK at 7,700, I don't know how you avoid something like that. There's not a scary bat basically anywhere to be found for the Giants. Kershaw through last year, his ex-WOBA against righties and lefties, both under 300. He's still getting swinging strikes. You can't anchor your thoughts to him as if he's 2012 Clayton Kershaw any longer. Sure. But he's still a high-end number 2, a low-end number 1, and against a team that I don't know. I mean, it's just bad. It's really bad. I don't know where some of these guys was. Mauricio Dubon in the California Penal League last year. I mean, who the hell knows?
Listen, if I told you, and the line has moved since I last looked, if I told you that on a 2-game slate, you could play a pitcher on DraftKings, right, for 7,700 that is the biggest money line favorite on the slate by a mile, right? So has the highest likelihood of a win by a mile, and is facing a team with a 2.9 implied run total on opening night, you'd say, why are you even asking me this question? On FanDuel, you're right. It's totally different. But SuperDraft is another one. You play two pitchers. You get 1.45 times.
You have to play them. You have to.
Crazy. So I don't know. I actually would say that these are mispricings or mismultipliers, so to speak. And at 7,700, it's tough to get away from that, man. So 3 pitchers down. I'm impressed. We are driving this show. I thought I wasn't sure how long we'd be able to push this, but we're just getting started. No, we're almost done.
I'm glad we don't have 14 games, man.
Oh,
I would have to get the show catered.
It'd be over. But listen, we've learned over the years that when there's only a couple games, you got to massage it a little bit, right? I think we're giving.
Honestly, I think we just want to talk.
We just want to talk. I love to talk. I like hearing myself talk. Yeah, I know you. I sure as shit know you do.
I do. I really do. I know everybody else does.
Yeah, my wife doesn't.
The one person that I want to like me to talk is the one person that likes it the least.
Dude, let me say something really, really quickly. My dog's super afraid of thunderstorms, so she's in the guest bedroom. I come in yesterday. We hang some clothes in there. Justine had put the laundry basket down, and I'm laying on the bed. I go to get out of the bed. I step on the laundry basket on the edge of it, like where my foot goes into it. It flips up, hits me, right? I fall over into the nightstand. Nightstand comes down on top. Lamp hits me in the head. This is what happens, dude. I got monster welts all over my back. Oh, how did it happen? I stepped in a laundry basket. That's what happened to me last night, Josh.
Your Thunder buddy wasn't there to protect you for that one.
I love thunderstorms, man. She gets scared. I feel bad for her, She's this pit bull. She looks all mean, like Brindle. Hates thunderstorms. Can't handle it. But
the irony.
Get back to the point here. Yeah, the irony.
T McBee just said it. We need everybody to hit the like button. We're at 67 right now. That number needs to be above 100. It just does. It's opening day. Opening day thumbs ups. That's the best. Now we're at 69. So either don't hit it again.
Keep it there.
Either don't hit it again or hit it a bunch of times.
So Johnny Cueto, $5,000 on DraftKings. Okay. I shouldn't even mention his price on FanDuel, but 6,600. There are times where we will play cheap pitchers, Josh. There are plenty of times where we will do it. He has a 2 times multiplier on SuperDraft. But it's going to be real tough to justify any way in the world, even from a contrarian view or a leverage standpoint, that you would play Johnny Cueto against the team with easily the highest run total on the slate and having Garrett Cole, Max Scherzer, and Clayton Kershaw to choose from.
He just stands out like a sore thumb right now. It's
in a good way?
No, not in a good way.
Like a real ugly Sasquatch thumb.
What's really crazy is I've seen this game in San Francisco with both of these pitchers. I saw Giants-Dodgers Cueto versus Kershaw a couple of years ago.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. It probably not the same better than it was today.
It's not the same game any longer. Here's what's really interesting, and I think we need to talk about it because I'm not really sure what to do with it. I'm looking at FanDuel for right now because it's a little bit easier since it's a one-pitcher site. Everything that we're saying, Cueto is not Kershaw or Scherzer or Cole. It's crazy for him to be an option here today. He has a 12.3% chance of being the top scoring pitcher on the FanDuel slate. If you looked at this on the surface, you would think that number is not 12. People would be saying like 2, 3, 0. It's 12. Now, that's not great by any means, but let's just say it was 10. That means there's a 1 in 10 chance that Johnny Cueto is the best pitcher from today's slate. We kind of have to keep in mind that this is baseball. His opportunities will be there. It is not outside the realm of possibility that Johnny Cueto is the highest scoring pitcher for today's slate.
It's not. But did you say your numbers gave you a 1 in 10?
Well, Alex's top pitchers tool, which is proprietary, is 12% for FanDuel today.
My God. Oh my God.
So like 1 in 10, I was dumbing it. Like I was bringing it down to 1 in 10 just to make it easier. It's actually like 1 in 9.
or 12 and 100.
Sure.
Yeah. Let's simplify things, baby.
I don't like reducing my fractions.
That's fair. All right. So then if you crunched 150, well, say you crunch 500, you sort them, you got 150, Josh. Would you be okay if you had 10% Johnny Cueto?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Even like look at it for DK. 18% chance of being one of the top 2 pitchers. Again, not great. 40% chance of being one of the top 2 values, but he's only getting 8% of the ownership.
Right.
192% of the ownership is everywhere else. I think if you're playing large field GPPs, the massive stuff, you have to be looking at Johnny Cueto because he's going to go underrepresented. If you're in 1,000-person single entry, it's probably not the place that you need to get different. Huge field stuff, he's going to go underowned.
Yeah. Anthony Marcus says, isn't he just the opener, if I'm not mistaken? I didn't see that.
I haven't seen that either.
I didn't see that. Maybe you're right. If so, let us know. But
if he is, then don't play him.
Right. Exactly. Here's a couple points that are very valid. Gorgeous Dong, is 40% Cueto too much? That's not valid. Yes, that. I will take a stand on that. Don't play 40% Johnny Cueto. Tyler Mason says Cueto won't pitch more than 4 innings. And 3-run shot said Kapler managing Cueto is an 8.8 DraftKings point day incoming. Those are 2 valid points. We saw what Gabe Kapler did with a laundry list of Philly starters last year. Now you can't count like Vince Velasquez in that equation because once Vince goes past 5, he gives up. Hell, he gave up a 3-run home run to Aaron Judge the other day. Or I'm sorry, a 3-out home run. 3-out home run. That's real. But yeah, I think Cueto probably, I would put his ceiling at 5 innings. And this is just off the top of my head, Josh.
I gave him 5 1/3. So you're not like miles away from me or anything.
Okay, yeah, all right. That's probably where I put him. If he went 4, it wouldn't surprise. It depends if he gets tuned up, though. Like that's the thing. You're playing Cueto, and there's a chance he might get beat up. If that's the case, yeah, you shouldn't be expecting more than 4 innings. If he comes out of the 4th clean, he's coming back out for the 5th. You know what I mean? If he's got 75 pitches at the 4th, they're going to bring him back out for the 5th. So that's how I see it. It's very hard to predict that when we don't know what happened in the first few innings.
Yeah, you're never going to see a pitcher get yanked after 4 unless he threw 140 pitches and like just barely got out of it. Like you're always getting the 5th. Now, he could be long gone by that point. That's a completely different story. I guess the moral of the story here is just he is going to go significantly underowned, and you have to at least pay attention a little bit in GPPs. If you even think don't click on his name in a cash game.
No, and for anyone wondering, when Josh or anyone brings this up, it's not anybody sitting here and talking about Cueto as something like. There's a big difference between, man, that is a great play today. He's a phenomenal pitcher in an excellent spot. You know, we talked about Kershaw, great spot, highest team total, lowest total against him, biggest favorite, all of that stuff. This is not advocating for Johnny Cueto as much as it is. It's just advocating to be potentially different in tournaments if there is a high enough probability that Cueto could be one of the better pitchers on this slate. Did I word that properly?
Yeah, absolutely. It is not a play on his talents or the matchup or anything along those lines. It is simply a play specifically for contests where there are a limited amount of options that you can have in a, what are some of the bigger contests today? 500,000 entries or something along those lines?
Yeah.
Those are the spots where he will need to have been owned a little bit more to give yourself a chance to win that contest. In the smaller stuff, anything in like a 1,000 to 10,000 range, yeah, he's not going to be owned all that much, and he really shouldn't, because you don't need to deviate that far away. He projects like really poorly. I don't have Alex's stuff up right now. I do have mine up. He's essentially at half of the projection of Clayton Kershaw. Like we are comparing two different things. He is just wildly different, and the top pitcher odds kind of bear that out.
Yeah,
who knows? But don't expect, like, more often than not, he's bad. If he's the top pitcher 12% of the time, 88% of the time he's not.
Right. And ownership compared to everyone else is super low for a reason, right? There's a reason his ownership is incredibly low. And I think the one problem you're going to run into is, like, Cueto's 5,000 on DraftKings, which is very cheap, but Kershaw is 7,700, which is comparatively speaking, or relatively speaking, even cheaper. You know what I mean? So
by a lot.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. You know, if Cueto's 5K, Kershaw should be what? At least 99,000, 9,300 in a spot like this, but he's not. So, we take what we can get and we move on. Now, looking at hitters, the San Francisco Giants, we touched on this quite a bit at the top of the show. I can't exactly say there's a whole lot there at all. Do you see any viability in the Giants hitters? I think the answer has to be yes. It has to be yes, whether you want it to be or not. And if I were to play one righty against Kershaw that has some pop, I'd be okay with that too. It's not at Oracle Park. It's in Dodger Stadium, which is a little bit more hitter friendly. Knowing that in San Francisco, it's probably the most pitcher friendly venue in the league. I would say we got to talk about them because, well, there isn't a lot here, and maybe this is the place to go cheap, even if it's a hitter against one of our pitchers.
Yeah, I don't. It's really hard to get to a Giant. So on FanDuel, no one is more expensive than Mike Yastrzemski at 2,500. Let that sink in for a bit.
That's insane.
Darren Ruff does not have a salary there, so just in case he's in the lineup, he has not been added to the FanDuel player pool yet. So if you can't find him, that's why. You could look at Austin Slater if he really is leading off. You get dual eligibility, 3,100. Like, it gets to a point where he becomes enough value based on spot in the lineup and price that he becomes viable. But Dodger Stadium is kind of rough on righty power. I mean, not rough, but not Darren Ruff. 97 park factor against righty home runs. It's 105 against lefties. So, that lets you think, oh, well, that could be better for Yastrzemski and Brandon Crawford. Well, it's probably not, because then they're also facing the lefty Clayton Kershaw. I think this fits the Giants really poorly. They're bad. There's not anybody that stands out as like a true threat. I mean, Mauricio Dubon is projected for 37% ownership on DraftKings right now as a second base shortstop eligible 3,100 guy. I am going to go ahead and ignore. Yeah, I just don't want it. I think that the Giants are largely going over-owned right now to try and make the rest of pitching work. I would try to be avoiding them.
All right, so check this out. I'm actually just crunch some lineups, not really messing with much, just throwing projections in there, seeing what we come up with. And I locked in Garrett Cole and Clayton Kershaw because I have no problem, not locking them in, but I have no problem. If I get lineups with Cole and Kershaw, I'm pretty happy about that. And it does appear that Dubon is coming up in a lot of them. So is Evan Longoria, which is strange because you have more than $4,000 per hitter if you throw in Garrett Cole and Clayton Kershaw. So,
well, you probably don't want to play Evan Longoria because he's on the injured
I just said
list.
I don't know why Longoria will be coming up in there.
Yeah, he's literally unable to play.
I know. Well, I told you, unadulterated.
Can you lose points in baseball DFS? Because you might be better off with Longoria today.
Hold on a second, dude. I uploaded projections. That shouldn't be happening. Yeah,
him and Belt are on the DL.
Avoid Longoria, but specifically Dubon is. Yeah. Oh yeah, look, he's still in there with a projection. That's weird.
Yeah. So Dubon's showing up because he is essentially free and plays two positions that are incredibly valuable on a 2-game slate. More often than not, Mauricio Dubon is going to end up with 0 fantasy points. at 37% ownership.
I'm getting a ton of Dodgers, and that's probably the way it should be. But it's just that build. I know it's a 2-game slate, but that build's going to be insanely popular, Josh. Like, it's just going to be nuts how much of that we're seeing. And how are you approaching that? Like I said, we'd close out the show with a little bit of lineup construction here, and that's what we're going to do. Before we do that, I'd say this much. Play the Dodgers. Dodgers hitters have the highest total. We like to break down pitching more than anything here because there's not a whole lot to talk about in terms of Dodger bats. Just they're very good. We can get into that now. But last thing, if you haven't checked out Awesemo.com yet, we have 2 promo codes. One of them expires tomorrow. Manfred, like Rob. Actually, we're talking exactly about Rob. Manfred. One word. 50% off your first month. Awesemo Plus. 50% off the entire month of Awesemo Plus MLB content. So it's your projections, your ownership, your top stack tool, the lineup builder, all of the premium articles, everything, all of the tools developed and used by Awesemo himself, not just sticking his name on it. He uses them. It's a great deal. It's $25, 50% off the top for 31 days. Best projections and ownership out there. The top stack tool is huge. And if you want to get into all of the sports, right? If you want to get into UFC, you want to get into NBA when it returns in 7 days, baseball, NASCAR, whatever you want, soccer, we have all of it. 50% off your Awesemo Plus monthly pass for everything, all inclusive, one might say, by using that promo code RESTART. My honest suggestion to you is do that. All right, you're getting half off. That's $45. So you're paying $20 additional than the MLB one, and you're getting all of the content on the site, everything behind paywall. That one is Restart, one word. That, Josh, that to me is easily the go-to here. Why not just get every sport? Unless you only play baseball, then, use Manfred.
Yeah, this is the time to get every sport because normally every sport isn't happening at the exact same time.
Right.
That will be the case hopefully relatively soon.
Yeah. And you can win a year of Awesemo Plus MLB access. Just go to Awesemo_com, check the pinned tweet for opening day. It's a $320 value. So just like the tweet and follow. Go to @Awesemo_com or @Awesemo MLB. Check that pinned tweet. We're giving away a free year of Awesemo Plus MLB access. No reason not to jump in on that. All right, man. Let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
We got through pretty much everything, which is pretty impressive. It took an hour, but I'm glad to be back with you, man. This is fun.
I've missed this more than most people would actually believe. But
so
it's just it sets my day better.
Yeah.
For how many years you just get used to wake up, break down the slate, get prepped for a show,
years,
talk about the show. Yeah, like it's just it was really different to talk about simulated basketball or whatever other nonsense that me and Ben were babbling about for 4 months.
That was a shitload of fun, though.
I wouldn't change a thing. It was fun. It did reset it made me like baseball and football again. So
yeah. Did you
perfect.
Did you crunch any lineups yet?
I did.
Okay.
Only for FanDuel though.
Okay, that's all right. We don't need to screen share. What was the most? What were you getting in terms of exposures? It's still a little bit early, but with baseball, we can get a better idea in the morning than we would with basketball.
Yeah, pretty aggressive to Cole and Scherzer, which is obviously not a huge surprise. They will make up the large majority of my FanDuel pitcher ownership. After that, from a team perspective, probably leaning most towards the Yankees. I tend to follow power more than anything, and I think they have a little bit more than the Dodgers do. Nats would probably be 2 for me. I'm going to have a little bit less of the Dodgers and Giants than I think the public will. We'll see how that shakes out. Now, this may all change later on in the day, depending on what the weather outlook looks like.
Okay.
I believe Alex mentioned if the Nats-Yankees game is postponed before lock, the Dodgers-Giants game is the only game on the slate. No matter what, on FanDuel, the slate will be canceled.
Huh.
So take that into account when building your lineups. It's different. I'm going to read this off. If you want to go follow Awesemo Weather on DK in a 2-game slate, if one game is postponed before game time, slate is canceled. If it's postponed after lock, it goes with 1 game. So it might make more sense to stack game 2 on DraftKings. On FanDuel and SuperDraft, if a game is postponed and a 2-game slate, it's just canceled. So play it accordingly.
Okay. That's good information to know. And we will have shows coming up at night, so we'll be able to provide you with more information on that for sure.
You and Adam back for the deeper dive tonight.
Right.
And then the Boss Man and Jake on Live Before Lock. So leading right into that. And then we have the MMA strategy show with Jason Floyd and Pete the Heat Rogers coming in at 7:30. Normally that's a 7 o'clock start, but they're starting at 7:30 tonight because of baseball coming back. So tune in then. So they break down Saturday's MMA card.
Very nice. Hey, the highest projected owned hitters today on DraftKings. This is on our ownership tool, awesemo.com, but you already knew that. Max Muncy at 4,600. You're looking at 49.4% projected ownership. Justin Turner, Cody Bellinger, Mauricio Dubon, Gleyber Torres, Jalen Davis. So the top 3 are all Dodger bats. Yeah. And then you got Mookie Betts at like 33%, but you've got 2 Dodger bats at 42% or higher, 3 of them at 38% or higher. It's going to be, and then as far as pitchers go, Scherzer 76%, Kershaw 62%. You're going to see Scherzer, Kershaw, full out Dodger stacks, Cole, Kershaw, full out Dodger stacks. Got to be the most popular today, Josh. I don't think there's any question.
No, that's just going to be what you're getting and what you're seeing. You have to be very cognizant of what kind of contest you're getting in and how big the field is. You can be a bit chalkier in smaller fields than you want to be in large fields. In large fields, you are just making it really difficult to finish at the top of a tournament. That's where you want to get a little bit weirder, play some guys that are picking up a little bit less ownership. But you are going to see a lot of Dodgers bats, Nats, and Yankee or Scherzer, Cole type stuff on DK in single entries.
Let's finish with this. Last question, and then we'll head out for the day. We'll come back tonight and hit on all of this again. Assuming this Nats-Yankees game goes off without a hitch, let's say you have a single entry tournament, 3,000 people. Mm-hmm. You put one lineup in. What do you do to differentiate?
So the first thing that I'm going to pay attention to is what hitters do I have that aren't a part of a primary stack? And if any of those hitters are wildly chalky, like let's just say that I am not stacking the Giants, but I do have Mauricio Dubon in the lineup as I start building it. That would be the first place.
Dodgers with him.
Yeah, that would be the first place where I would try to remove him for someone else picking up less ownership so that I can get a slightly more unique lineup in that case. Because I assume that I'm already going to be pretty chalky at pitcher. So I'm going to have to do it on the hitter side. My hitting stack, I'm not going to care all that much. I'm going to try to move my pieces around there. And then if I can find it, let's say I'm running a 5-man stack for whatever team, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to try to find one of their lower owned pieces in that 5-man stack to try to make my stack a little bit different. So what would be a good example? So right now, not that I think that he is any good whatsoever, but Brett Gardner is at 8% ownership for the Yankees. Doesn't really feel like a great spot. Could potentially be hitting 8th. Could be on base for some home runs, though, and that could be a benefit. So instead of trying to make sure you get those 5 power bats, just switching one of those guys, switching from Aaron Hicks to Brett Gardner takes you from 21% ownership to 8. That's a direction that I would try to go in those kind of contests.
That's a great note to end on. You don't hear about that enough. Your pivot doesn't have to be someone on the other team. It can be someone on the same team of a stack who is very low owned, because he will still benefit if this team goes off. It might not be in the same way that a one-hole hitter would. He might not be projected for as many plate appearances. But you're absolutely right. If you're looking at the same team and one of these guys is expected to have less ownership, but he also has the potential to have runners in scoring position, to score runs, to knock in runs, there's a lot there. I'm with you. Perfect stuff, man. Well, it's been fun. It's been fun. We're going to do this a whole lot more. Stick around on the channel, youtube.com/Awesemo. And remember, Manfred at checkout, promo code gets you 50% off MLB Plus or Awesemo Plus MLB Monthly. I would suggest using Restart. One word. Get 50% off everything for the next month on the site. We will be back here tomorrow on the Strategy Show. Josh Engleman, Dave Loughran, we're glad to be back. Glad you joined us. Hit that like on your way out. See you soon.